Welcome, everybody. Welcome into Sew in Common. Welcome to Wednesday Workshop Live. That's right, live. Wednesday we go live, and right now we're finishing up a project tonight. We have lots to go over tonight. Let me flip my comments on. Hi, Gail. How are you? So glad you're here. Welcome into everybody. If you're brand new with us here at Sew in Common, we do patchwork, like you see right there, with the hoop of our embroidery machine. Let me turn that around. With the hoop of our embroidery machine. Super simple. We use a system I created called Build a Quilt, and it's super fun. It's easy. If you've been a quilter forever like I have, this is just another way to do patchwork. Build a Quilt is patchwork on an embroidery machine created for quilters from a quilter. So a lot of times our quilting with our embroidery machine is created more as machine embroidery. I have created it to be just like you're doing patchwork in any other technique. So we're just getting our machine to do the heavy lifting for us, like all those seams and stuff that you don't have to worry about anymore, all of that kind of stuff. So we are so glad you're here with us tonight. Stick around. You'll see more about what Sew in Common and Build a Quilt is about, what Wednesday night workshop is about. Sorry, I still have a bit of a frog in my throat. It's much better than it was earlier in the week. It was bad, really bad. But we've got a lot to get through tonight. Let me see. I know I'm prepped, but I feel like all of a sudden I'm discombobulated. Let me look at my list. I always make my list so that I know everything I want us to do. So hang on. Oh, okay. Got the question of the week coming up in a little bit. In fact, let me just type that in because I forgot to do it earlier. So tell us who you are, sign in, say hey, let us know where you're from, and we'll get going here in just a second. Okay. There we go. Now I've got the question of the week in for later. It's so goofy, I swear. All righty, let's go ahead and turn our little ticker off here for now, because we all know it's Wednesday Workshop Live. All right, are you guys ready to start out like we do every week with some memes, some little cartoon things? I found some cute ones for us today. Let me add them. So this first one, I love this one. Walk-in closet. I believe you mean fabric vault, right? Put up your hand, let us know. Yeah, absolutely. I will say I have a walk-in closet that is for all of my bolts of fabric because I buy a lot of fabric by the bolt, so that I always have plenty on hand for designs and prototypes and quilts I want to make, right? I just wish mine was that organized. Oh my gosh. I've tried to get mine organized before, and it always ends up also becoming my cupboard for hiding Christmas presents and things like that. So, but yeah. So if you have a walk-in closet that you use as your fabric vault, let us know. Or if you wish you did, you can let us know that as well. All right, ready for the next one? Hang on. Oh, hang on just a second. There we go. Here we go. Now this one's a little small, but I'll read it to you. Whoever said Disney was the happiest place on earth has never been to a fabric store. Isn't that true? Now, I'm not saying aught against Disney. I love Disney. Everybody, thinks Disney's great. But I am of the generation where I remember when Disney was first starting out. And so all the stuff and all they do today to me is more centered around children and young families and stuff like that, or younger people. And although it's great, it's not something that I have a great deal of joy going to Disney. In fact, I've never been to Disney, not World, not Land. And I have an aunt that lives by one and an uncle that lives by the other. In fact, my aunt has taken my husband to Disneyland once. and I've never been, but I have nothing against Disney, but I sure would rather be in fabric stores. Hi, T. How are you this evening? So nice to have you with us. So nothing against Disney, but I prefer fabric stores too. And I can clean those out with no problem at all. All right. So now this one I found very interesting. A new study shows that buying fabric and sewing supplies prolongs your life. Looks like I'm going to be immortal. I'm sorry. I love that one. Yes, I am immortal right there along with you. Whoever wrote that one, I'm immortal right along with you. Now, as somebody who has spent their life as a scientist, I'm not sure about what study they might be talking about, but if there is a study like that, I want to read it because, yeah, I think I would be immortal. How about you guys? You can let us know in the comments if that applies to you. But I thought that one was pretty doggone funny. I liked it. I liked it a lot. All righty. So that's our memes for this evening. Although I have one other thing. I didn't get any things to share with you all, any like of your project pictures or anything like that this week, which is fine. People don't always send me pictures. But don't be afraid to send me pictures of what you're doing and how they're going and stuff like that. But I don't know if this will go ahead and show or not. Is it showing? No, it isn't. Okay, I'm going to have to bring it up. Hang on. I need to bring it up. I found a picture where Dave and I live. There are tons and tons and tons of barn quilts. In fact, we have a 2-loop barn quilt tour, like an east and a west one. And this is Dave. This must be 15 years ago, maybe. We were out and we found a barn quilt and I said, oh, go stand under the quilt. I'll take your picture. And that came up today. And I thought, well, since I don't have any thank you shares, and since you all have now met Dave when he was one of our guests, and so many of you wrote such nice things about him last week, I thought I'd share that one. But we have some of the most beautiful barn quilts ever in our area. And yeah, that must be from around 15 years ago. So that's my Dave. Thought you guys might want to see that. Alrighty. So earlier this week, I posted a short little video that is all about laying out our current project, because tonight we're going to finish up the Stars and Diamonds. Now, I want to ask you all really quickly, and if you can comment and let me know. We have a lot to get through tonight, so we might go about 5 minutes over our hour. I'm going to try to keep us under, but if we don't, can we go 5 minutes over? Will that be okay with everybody? Let me know. If you're all saying like, absolutely not, I got to get out of here right at 7 o'clock or whatever time in an hour, then I'll just cut it off and I'll finish it or something in another video for us. But I think we can get through it if we can go maybe 5 minutes over. Good evening, Ruth. So nice to have you from sunny Lake Stevens, Washington. I love Lake Stevens. Yes, T says it's okay with her. Thank you so much. I'm good to go over any amount of time. Okay, thank you, Gail. Thank you. I just don't want to ever abuse y'all's time. And so I want you to know that up front. But good evening again to Ruth. So glad that you could be here from the beautiful state of Washington, the Evergreen State, my other home. Dave and I lived there for several decades, and it's just has a very special place in our heart for sure. We have lots of dear friends that live out there still that are like our family. So I love that somebody that visits me on Wednesday night is from Washington State. That's great. Lake Stevens is a beautiful area too. All right. So anyway, tonight we're going to be finishing this off, but we're going to be talking about the finished quilting. And I want to do a little stitch out for you to see, so you can see it. Now, some of you may say, Diana, I'm not gonna do quilting by my machine. I'm going to quilt this in my own way, either like free motion or you're going to do it by hand. That's cool. That's totally fine. But in this project, you were given 2 files so that you can quilt it on your embroidery machine too. And why not, right? Why not? If you haven't tried it before, give it a try. You might decide maybe it's not something you want to do for bigger quilts, although I do all of my quilts on my embroidery machine now, every last one of them. But maybe it's something you want to try and just do on your smaller pieces. So that's what we're doing tonight. And so I have several things that I want to run through. And then I have a little bit of announcement at the end, and then we'll be done. All righty. Don't forget, folks, anytime tonight that you need to pop in a question or a comment, I'm watching over here on the Facebook channel. And then, of course, I've got all of my stuff coming through over here for YouTube. Just please do that, and I will keep trying to check back to get your questions answered. All righty. So earlier in the week, I posted a little video, a short video, maybe 6 or 7 minutes, that was all about how to lay out and sew together your stars and diamonds. Now you get a chart in the pattern, but for some folks that are new or have never done this, I wanted you to kind of see like the thought process of how that works. And so I showed it to you. Now, I also did a shorts video, one of those under a minute ones, that was about pressing it. So, and why press it? Because before I quilt, I wash out the wash away stabilizer. On a project this size, I had it all sewn together and then I washed it out. If I'm doing a quilt, a full size quilt, then I'll wash out block by block and then sew my blocks together. I've done full size quilts, washing it all out at the end, and it works, but boy, is it a mess to get through. It's just a lot of fabric to get the water out of, letting it dry, all that kind of stuff. So either block by block or like this project size is good for doing that. And so I put that out there on pressing, and I showed you, after I've washed it out, I let it almost completely dry. It can be the tiniest bit damp, but it must be almost completely dry. And then as it's drying, I go out and I open up any of my seams that I had already pressed open when I put it together. And then they'll kind of stay that way while they're drying, which is really nice. It makes it really easy in the end to press the whole piece once it's dry. But there's something I didn't show you in that, and I want to show it to you tonight. One of the tools, with Build a Quilt, there's not many tools that you need, right? Just like 3 or 4 that you really need, and that's it. But for pressing, there's something I like to use for just the first thing I do when I start to press. I flip it over and I press all of the seams. And there's so many seams that if you use your big full-size iron, or even the smaller Olissos, they're big. For me, they're too big for that kind of pressing. Now, the Olisso small one, yeah, you could get away with it if you have that. But I like to use this. These are little craft irons, but this particular one, it's by Clover. You can see that on there. It comes with 2 of these little triangular heads. And I believe this is the smaller one. And I put it on and I set it on a medium heat, and I go through all of my seams with this. And then I take my full-size Olisso and press everything else, and it turns out really well. It really gets your seams flat. And the other thing it does, so when you wash out your stabilizer, you've used that little bit of free and clear, no scent fabric softener, if you've watched my video. And there's method to my madness. One of the reasons you do that is because it softens up the little hard spots in your seams. So when you get, okay, I'm going to show you this. We made this a few weeks ago, this little mug rug. Right here in the middle where this comes together, it's like this with any kind of quilting. This isn't an artifact of Build a Quilt. This is any kind of quilting. When you have something that comes together, a lot of fabric in one little place, you get little kind of hard knots. And there's a couple ways you can work with them. You can take a tailor's clapper, which I've shown you in videos before, and just hammer the snot out of them, and that will soften up that fabric. But the other thing, and one of the reasons I like using that free and clear fabric softener, is if you use that when you're washing out the stabilizer and then letting it dry flat, that fabric softener actually will soften those little hard places, so that when you're quilting, I've never broken a needle. Before I figured that out, occasionally I would break a needle. I mean, like I broke like 2 in 3 years, so it wasn't a lot, but I was. Since I started doing it this way, I've never broken a needle yet. So, you know, fingers crossed that I haven't just jinxed myself. But the other thing is pressing your seams with this, you can hold this. See, I don't have it plugged in, right on those hard spots. And that warmth will also get them soft. Then I set my tailor's clapper on them as I go. And that heat will just absorb in there and it will continue to make those areas softer. So when you're quilting, your needle goes right over it. It's not a problem at all. So that's a tip. That's what I call a pro tip that I wanted to share with you all tonight. Okay. So I'm kind of checking things off here as we go. So, that layout video, when we're done tonight, I'm going to put it in the description so that you can watch it if you haven't seen it yet. Alrighty, your quilt sandwich. Does anybody not know what a quilt sandwich is? If you don't know what a quilt sandwich is, please put it in the comments right now, because some of this, for some of those of you that I know have been quilters for a while, I don't want to spend a lot of time on. So I'm getting us through the evening. So if you don't know what a quilt sandwich is, let me know right now, please, in the comments. Tap, 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 tap. Okay, so just real quick, a quilt sandwich is your quilt top that you've made, our design, our stars and diamonds, a layer of batting, and a layer of backing fabric. That's the quilt sandwich. But when you're quilting, you have to keep that together somehow. And there's lots of methods. There's the one that's old as time, the pin method. And I like to use the thumb and pinky method. I put my hand, I start in the center of my quilt. I always start in the center. I start in the center when I'm quilting. I start in the center if I'm basting, not using a spray adhesive. So my hand goes on the center. I put a pin here and I put a pin here. And there are quilting basting pins. They look like big safety pins, but they got a slight curve in them. So they kind of scoop for you. You go right through all 3 layers of your sandwich. And then you put one here and you put one here. And then you rotate your hand and you put one at the other end and you rotate and you do that all over it. And that holds it together. And typically for larger quilts, that's what I use every single time. It's old, it's tried, it's true. It's pretty easy to do. However, for smaller projects like the ones we're making with the Stars and Diamonds, I have absolutely no problem using a fabric spray adhesive, but it must be for fabric. So the one I like the very best, remember, I'm not being supported or asked to show you any of these products. These are the things I've used for years and years. So I know they work. I know I like them and I know they're consistent. So the ODA 505 temporary adhesive. Now, always look, because ODA has one that isn't temporary. June Taylor has one. The June Taylor basting spray is a really light adhesive. For a small project, it works okay. I don't use it on anything larger than what we're doing tonight because it's so lightweight, it tends not to stay together. Or at least that's been my experience over the several times over a few years that I used it. But I keep it around because for small projects, it's fine. But the ODA 505 temporary adhesive works like a charm every single time. It doesn't make your piece stiff. It washes out beautifully when you wash your quilt, if you ever do. It doesn't yellow your quilt over time. I have smaller pieces that I've had around maybe 15 years now, because I was using this to base smaller pieces long before I even created Build a Quilt. And it doesn't yellow your quilt. So, but it has to say temporary adhesive on it. It has to be made for fabric if you're going to use this. If you have a favorite fabric spray, put it in the comments so folks can use it, because I'm sure there are others that are good too. I'm just telling you the one I like. But if you like one, let us know what that is. And then we will have that in our little repertoire to use at other times as well. All righty. So once you've got your quilt sandwich made, then you do your basting, pins or spray. Okay. There's another little product that I use occasionally, but I'm not going to show it to you tonight. I'm going to save it for another time because It's kind of a funny little thing. And I would need to demonstrate it. So I'll save that for another night. Alrighty. So you have to load your 2 files into your machine. You have 2 files in your pattern. One is for the 5x5, so for all the squares. One is for all of the squares. And then one is a little rectangular piece that is for all of your edging around. So you'll want to load those into your embroidery machine. And when you do that, you also want to print out templates. Now you have the pictures there to print out. If you have a program that allows you to print out with crosshairs, that's great. If you have, excuse me, I'm going to grab a thing here. If you have a sticky back template paper made for embroidery, these are great for your quilting templates because you just peel it off, stick it on, peel it off, stick it on, and it works perfectly. And like I use one template per project. I don't ever like have to reprint them out because even if the sticky gets a little unsticky, it'll stay there long enough for me to do what I have to do with it. So I like any of the sticky back template papers. This one is an older one from Designs in Machine Embroidery. The ones they sell now are a little bit different. I don't quite like them as much. They're more like plastic than this vellum-y paper, but they work. They're just not my favorite. But these, like when I knew they were going to stop making these, I bought like 20 or 30 packages of them and I hoard them. Like if I ever make a mistake in printing one, I just print over it and then trace out my actual design on it so I can see it better because I just don't like I don't like to waste any of these. But if you don't have a sticky back template paper, don't worry about it. Just use copy paper. And here's what I want to tell you though. There's a tip. So here's your next pro tip for the night. You get these in your packet. You just have to print them off on copy paper. A lot of times we print it off and we just go in here and we cut it out. But if you just come in here and print and cut this out and print it and try to use it, you aren't going to know where to get your center. You need 4 very straight sides to be able to give yourself some crosshairs. So when you print your paper out, fold it on the long axis like that and give it a good crease. Then unfold it, fold it on the short axis and give that a good crease. And then when you open it up, you have your point right in the center of this design. Then what I would tell you to do is take a ruler. Now I'm not using a ruler. I'm just using my pencil. So this is going to be really nasty looking and not quite as straight as it will be if you do it with a ruler. There we go. And mark your crosshairs so that you always know where that point is. And then whatever is the top, put a little arrow there so you always know that it's pointing upwards. And then you can cut it out to a smaller piece so that you can use it, but you'll always know where the top is and you'll always know where the center is. Has everybody got that? Just simple, easy tip if you don't have a template paper. Then if you want to, you don't have to spray anything on the back of it. There's a couple of things I do sometimes when I just use copy paper. Is I take my embroidery tape and I make a loop just like we would do when we were kids and you know you were wanting to stick tape on stuff and you would stick it on the wall. I just take it and make a loop, stick it right in the center where that center would be, and then I just use that as the sticky to hold it on. Okay, you could, if you wanted, lightly spray it with your 505 or whatever adhesive you're using, but I think that's overkill. I don't think you need to. As long as you just have something to hold it down for just like, 5-10 seconds, that's all you really need. Alrighty, will you trust me on that one? Please trust me. Alrighty, so that's all you have to do. But you want to do your templates and you want to use templates. That's going to give you perfect placement of your design every time you lay it down to stitch it out on your machine. Alrighty, any questions so far about anything we have talked about? Ruth says she uses KK2000 when you do embroidery. Ruth, I have never heard of that product. Can you send me in an email some details about that? And then I will look that up and I'll present that at another live event so that folks can have some more information on that one. I've just never heard of that one, so I'd love to know more about it. Thank you so much. Alrighty, so once you're prepped now. Well, there's one more thing you have to do, and you have to decide what color thread you're going to use. Now, on my piece, I did it in the exact same colors that's on the design. So for me, there's two ways to think about it's a sulky product. That would be great. But yeah, if you could send me that info, that would be awesome. Thank you. With picking your thread, two things to think about. Are you someone who likes quilting to pop out and say, I'm the quilting, I'm here, look at me, aren't I good, don't I look great, oh yeah, oh got my lipstick, okay? Is that what you like your quilting to say? Or are you someone who says, I've done all this piecing and it turned out so pretty and my fabrics are so gorgeous, I want my quilting to be more subdued in the background, and just say, hey, I'm just hanging out back here. I'm good. I'm cool. No need to worry about me. I'm just doing my job. Is that what you want your quilting to say? So if you want it to be the first one where it's the star of the show, then pick a color in here that's going to really stand out. So on here, I might do red. If I wanted it to really stand out, I might do a red thread for my quilting. But I am definitely the person that says, I just want my quilting to do the job. Stay in the background. Be good back there. Hi, quilting back there. You look great, but you don't have to, you're just doing your job. You're not telling the story. Because when I do all this piecing, doggone it, I want people to see I did some work. So I like my piecing to show up and be the star of the show. That's all I'm saying. And I think that comes from all the years that I hand quilt with my grandmother, because back then we only hand quilted with a very light ivory or white thread. And it was always in the background and it always let all the beautiful piecing come forward. So I think that's just why I like it that way. And I know that's odd because y'all know how crazy I am over color, and sometimes I use color. Don't get me wrong, I do use color, but I really, for things like this, especially with white backgrounds, I like to use a white thread or something that's going to retreat into the back. Since we have this lighter, softer blue in here, a soft blue. If you wanted color but not white, but you wanted it to be subtle, a light blue would look beautiful in there too, whatever like light color you used there. Now, if you used other colors other than these, then that same idea, whatever your lightest color, your background color, if you want it to be subdued, or one of your brightest, most ostentatious colors would look great in the quilting as well. So tonight when you see me do the demo, you're going to see that I've already been doing mine in white, and I'm going to demo in white for you as well. But that doesn't have to be your choice. There is one other thread type that I love to use when quilting, and that is a variegated thread. Something that has all my colors in it. Because what variegated does, it stands out in places and it's subdued in other places. So you get this real kind of, you get movement, or I know some designers call it texture. I like to call it movement in the piece, because sometimes, oh, look at that quilting, and then over there, oh, look at that beautiful piecing, that kind of a thing. So if you can find variegated, that would be great as well. So that's my tips on thread. Okay. I'm just checking everything off here, making sure. Alrighty. Now I'm going to flip over to the other camera. Let me put that light on, because there's some things, I've already got things set up for the demo, but there are things there that I want to show you. Remember, any questions, you just pop right on and ask them, but I'm going to bring up the other camera. All right, so you can see, here's my piece, and I've been Well, my machine is locked up on me, doggone it. That kind of ticks me off because now I'm going to have to restart my machine. All right, well, I'll do that in a minute. Let's talk about these other things first. So here's my piece. As you can see, I've been quilting, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But what I want to talk to you about first is your batting and your backing. So I usually buy crib-sized batting sets and keep them around for small projects because I can usually get 3 or 4 small projects, sometimes 5 or 6, depending on how small. And it's economical that way. The product I've used tonight is Quilter's Dream Cotton. It's 100% pure cotton. Now, cotton is actually one of the heavier battings, believe it or not. A cotton wool blend or a cotton poly blend for a project like this would probably work better. But I had this piece, it was the last part of it from one batting, and it was the perfect size, so I just used it. And so it is Quilter's Dream Cotton. For full-size quilts, I love this particular batting. But there are so many beautiful battings out there. Maybe one night later in the year, we'll do a whole night on different battings, and we'll look at those together. So here is my quilt sandwich. Now, I want to show you on the back. You're going, I know somebody out there is going, what the heck is that, Diana? So I know that when we do big, beautiful quilts, we always do beautiful fabric on the back as well. And of course we do. I mean, why wouldn't you? You want the back to look beautiful and the front to be beautiful. So for bed quilts, throw quilts, baby quilts, gifted quilts, of course, I do that every time. Here is something that store owners won't tell you, and neither will fabric designers tell you, because you're not buying their good fabric if they do. Small projects that are going to lay on a table or hang on a wall, and the back is never going to be seen. The quilt isn't used like a traditional quilt is used, like a full quilt would be used. I'm not going to waste my beautiful fabric on the back. Now, if I were giving it as a gift, I would, just because the gift receiver wouldn't understand this. But for me, and I learned this from my grandmother years ago, and I've always done this, small projects on the back, I use muslin. It's not expensive. It's actually a beautiful, good quality fabric. It will hold up forever. When I go to bind this, I will probably bind it in red. That's what I'm thinking at this point. But for the back that's never going to be seen, I use muslin. This muslin here was about $3 a yard. It's a medium weight. It's a really beautiful, it has a really beautiful hand to it, and it works perfectly for quilting your small projects. That's my other tip I wanted to give you. If you are someone who just can't see yourself doing it, do it one time. Then hang that piece up or put it out on a table, and I trust you. Trust me when I tell you, you will forget that it doesn't have beautiful fabric on the back, especially once it's bound and you see that beautiful color on the edge. Okay. And that will save you a little money too, to buy more beautiful fabric for more piecing. See, I'm all about getting that piecing beautiful, and the more beautiful fabric, the better. Okay. So that's my thought for you there. Now, since I have to, doggone it, I have to turn off my machine and start it again, I have to take my quilt out. But while we're doing that, while it's turning itself back on, I want to talk to you about hoops. When you quilt, a lot of you are going to use your regular quilt hoop. My one tip for quilting, regardless of the type of hoop you use, is always use the smallest hoop you have to get your design area quilted. Don't put your piece in a huge hoop to quilt something that's 5 by 5. That's when you start to get shifting and movement, and it can throw your quilting off. So my 6 by 6 is perfect for doing the quilting that we're doing tonight. Okay. In fact, let me just, there we go. We'll go back over to there in a minute. So your regular hoop, that really is going to be just whatever size you have to have. So your 5x7 hoop will work perfectly. If you have a larger hoop and you don't have a smaller hoop, then use what you have. But always remember, you want your batting and your backing fabric about 3 inches past your quilt top. That way, if you have to quilt off of the fabric a little bit, and you will on the ends of this, or if you get a little shifting going on, you're not going to run out of fabric, something for that needle to go into. Okay. Alrighty. So you can use a regular hoop. It takes a little bit of time. You must remove it from the machine each time. You must undo your bolt down here and get it just to be as big as it can be, and then put it in. And I like to only twist it tight enough for it to hold. Don't really hunker down on it, because that's going to give you really bad needle or hoop burn on your fabric. So just do it the least amount you have to get it to stay in the hoop and stay where it needs to go. However, and you just saw me take this off, my favorite friend when I quilt is a magnetic hoop. These are Dimes hoop, Designs and Machine Embroidery. I love them. They're great. But any magnetic hoop that might be made by your company that makes your machine, that's fine too. Dimes work with any machine. You go in and do a drop down and pick whatever one goes with your machine. I have all the sizes I need for my machines, from the smallest to the biggest. And I love them. And there's a reason why I really love these magnetic hoops. Let's go back over now to our other camera. What I love about this is that with a magnetic hoop, you put the bottom onto your machine and you don't have to take it off again until you're done quilting. Your top just slides on and off really easily. So let me bring up my design. There we go. When you bring up your design, it'll be right in the middle of the screen. Just leave it where it is. You don't need to do any adjustment that way. Unfold this. I put my template here, right? I put my template into the place I want to do it. And I'm going to bring this up, and I don't have anything blocking my way. I always take my thread out and just wrap it as if I'm going to for rethreading. And then I kind of put it right where I think it's going to come down in the center. Then I lower my, yep, oh gosh, I got that right on, right where I needed it to be. So I'm going to lift that up now. I know my needle and my template are where I need them to be. And now I'm just going to, I'm holding on to that and I'm just slipping on my frame and I'm ready to go. All I need to do is auto thread my machine. And let's go ahead and do that so I don't forget. All right, so that's why I love using magnetic hoops. Okay. Now let's take a look down here at the bottom. You can see here, I've already quilted here and here and here and here. And now I'm working up at the top. So when you quilt with your embroidery machine, start in the center. You know, I told you could get some movement, some jiggling a little bit. That's just because that's how that works when you're using a machine instead of your hand. The up and down of the needle, the movement of the feet, getting your things to move, that causes that kind of a shimmy in your fabric. So sometimes it will move a little bit. We're not talking about inches. We're talking about ever so slightly moving. But when you have enough space over here on the ends past your quilt top, if it accidentally ends up running out over into here, you've got something that it's going to quilt onto. But that is why you start in the middle. Because if it's going to do any of that pressing outwards kind of a thing, and you start in the middle, it's going to push this out. If you start here or here and work inwards, it's going to push it in here and you're going to end up with wrinkles in the middle. So by doing it here and going outwards, you won't get those wrinkles, okay? Now, when you quilt with these two designs, you can see they're just very simple. They're very simple stipple. Now, I will tell you, this is actually my own free motion stipple. So when I sit down, if I were to free motion, this is what my stipple looks like. That's just, see, that's why I do free motion a lot. So when I digitize this, I hand drew out my stipple and then I digitized that pattern. So you're getting my actual handwork here, guys. And so I'm sorry if you don't like it because it's not machine generated. It's generated by my little old hands. But what I've done is I've set it at a 3.5 stitch length. And as you can see here, it looks like I've hand stitched this. You can kind of tell better on the white almost than you can on the color. But it looks like I've hand stitched this. And that's how I like my quilting to look, as if I have hand stitched it. So that's for all of the squares. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 hoopings to do your squares. And then you get this one for your little rectangles around the edge. Let me move that up a little bit. Can you see that? Here, let's move that up. So when you're using this one, it's going to fit into each one of these. So what I would do is I would work on one side at a time, start in the middle, then work on this one, then work on this one, then rotate it and do the next side and the next side. Now, here's something I want to tell you about quilting. Quilting is meant to do one thing and one thing only, hold that quilt sandwich together. We have very much in the modern day gotten to the habit that quilting must cover every square inch of our quilt. Not so. In fact, I was going to quilt this where I was only going to do quilting in the 4 diamonds and along my edging. And then I thought, no, nobody will understand why I'm doing that because that's not how we think about quilting today. So I've gone ahead. I'm going to quilt every single square and my edges. But if you want to, you don't have to quilt every one of these squares. You could do only the center and the 4 out here. That would be plenty of quilting to hold your piece together. I think it gives your quilts, especially pieces that are going to hang or be on a table, it gives them a little bit, again, a little more movement, a little more uniqueness to them. I don't do that necessarily on a bed quilt, but for these projects, you can really play with where you want to place your quilting. Now, when you get to your corners, your 4 corners, I have chosen not to have us quilt those. So I don't want you to worry about those. You're going to go, oh, I'm here and I'm here and I'm here and I'm in the middle, but I don't have anything for here. That's because I've chosen that we are not going to quilt the 4 corners. Once you get your binding on here and all, you're not even really going to notice there's nothing in the corners. If it really bothers you that the corners aren't quilted, take this piece and put it kind of on the edge, fit that in there, and then quilt this whole piece, this whole stitch out, and you will get quilting in here in all 4 of your corners, and you're going to get quilting, a little bit of the quilting out here. That's why you want to have enough out here so that it can quilt off the actual piece, and then that will get cut off. But you will get the stippling in here if you absolutely feel like you have to do the stippling on every little piece of it, okay? And that really is your decision. But quilting has gone from something that is utilitarian hundreds and thousands of years ago to something now that's really an art form. So as an art form, I say, let's play with it and let's do it however we want, especially with our smaller pieces. Do them however you want to do them. It's your piece. It will be beautiful, trust me. Okay, so I've got my white thread in here. I'm using a white bobbin. You can see underneath there's my quilting so far on the back that no one's ever going to see. Okay. So I'm all set up to go here. Now I've got my needle to be right in the center. Now I'm just going to see, you can see this is really still sticking, and I've already done 4 squares. So this is going to last really well. So now I've taken my template off. Please take your template off. If you don't, you will kick yourself when you stitch over it and you have to pick it all out. And trust me, I have done that once. Now we're going to go ahead and stitch this down. It will go to the first stitch, and it's going to stitch all within this square. Now, I chose to do it square by square for us instead of a true edge to edge where everything matches up. When you're working a small project like this, things don't have to touch. In fact, when you're doing edge to edge, you don't have to make your pieces touch. When you are done, people cannot tell, your eye cannot tell if those little threads are touching or not. And so it's easier for newbies to learn in a square by square manner. And so that's how we're doing this one. And there, we're done with that whole square. That's how easy it is to do your quilting. Now, all I would do is I would pull off my hoop, or if you have to take your whole hoop out, and then I'm going to come in here, and you see like on here, because these print with crosshairs, I've got a little arrow there so I know what part is sticking upwards, and I just replace it where I want it to be, and I know it's in the center, and I come back and I put that right under the needle, slide that back on. Now I'm going to unthread. I unthread so I don't have to pull the piece of thread out after I've checked my placement. Now I know right now I'm not right directly in the center. That's okay. Let's bring this back up. I'm going to go over to edit and move, and I'm going to come over, and I'm going to go up, and now I'm going to try it. Oops. Stop. I always cut. Didn't need to. I didn't have thread there. I pressed the wrong button. Let's go back. Hang on. Shoot, I can't get it to go back now. Hang on. There we go. That'll work. Okay, so I am going to test. Okay, I know I'm not in the center, so I'm going to edit. There we go. I'm going to edit. Oh, my needle's down. Hang on, it's got to come back up. So I won't do it. I'm going to pop that right over. Now I'm going to check it. Yep, now I'm right where I need to be. And I can pierce that template as many times as I want to. It's not hurting that template at all to check my piece. Now I'm going to thread my hoop or my needle. And now I can go ahead and do this next piece. And I want you to see how it glides over these seams. In the diamond in a square, that's pretty much open space. There's not a lot for it to go over. But in the pinwheels, you're going over a lot of seams. And I want you to see how easy it's going over those seams, because when I washed out the stabilizer and all, I softened everything up. Now I've slowed this down to 500 stitches a minute so you guys can see it, but I think I've told you this before. I never go over 700 stitches a minute. I think you're just asking for trouble. Alrighty, and now I've done this whole half. Normally, to do this half, you would flip your piece around but because this piece is completely symmetrical and so is this design, I don't need to do that unless I want to. I could just slide everything over and roll it up in here. So I could do this. I could just bring this over to here. Actually, I would start with this one and roll this up over here. Or because it's completely symmetrical and the same all the way around, I can flip it around and keep the bulk out here. That's entirely up to you on this piece. A lot of times you do flip it, and that will help you keep your stitching out there. But that's all you have to do to quilt your quilt. Do we have any questions? Okay, if you have any questions at all, go ahead and put those down. And I think we might still get out of here on time, guys. Yay. Maybe we're holding on. So we've done the backing and the muslin. We've talked about basting and spray glue and different ways to lay out and printing everything off. We've done our demo. All right. Alrighty. After you're finished with the quilting, then go ahead and trim right to the edge of your quilt all the way around. Throw everything else away and then do whatever binding technique you want. I don't typically show you binding because there's so many techniques and nobody likes how I do it. I do mine from the back and I pull forward, and I always do mine completely on my sewing machine. I have a video on binding if you want to check it out, if you want to do yours that way. I feel like hand binding isn't worth my time anymore. That's my decision though, guys. If you want to hand bind this, you go for it. Listening, but I'm putting my quilt together. I'm behind T. You're hilarious, girl. She's been listening, but she's putting her piece together. That's so great. I'm glad you're putting it together and just listening. That's totally cool too, because if you ever want to come back and watch part, you can do that later. I'm so glad you're putting your piece together though. That's awesome. Alrighty. So then you will bind it and you will be done. And I expect to get pictures. Okay. Now, I'm not going to tell you when you have to have it done, but on this little project, if you've been working along with us, you should be able to have it completely finished up in a week or two, right? I would think. I've got a little bit of more quilting to do, and then I'll bind mine. I'd love to say mine will be done by this weekend, but I know it won't be because we've got stuff on the calendar, and I've got a lot of stuff to do to get ready for Sunday, Quilt Lab. But for sure, I'll have it done soon and I will show it to you. In fact, it'll probably hang back there for a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed our first My Build a Quilt project. So here's what you need to know if you're with us and you haven't started yet with this and you want to. This package is $5 right now over at the website, sewincommon.com. Let me bring that up so you can see it. There we go. $5. As of tomorrow morning, when I get up, this will go to its normal price of $12.95, which is still a great value because you're getting all your piecing, all the instructions, you've got the videos, and you're getting those 2 finished quilting designs. Although very simple, you can use those for anything you want to use them for. So what I do when I get quilting designs in a package, I put those in a completely different folder on my computer so that I can go through and have just all my quilting designs in one area. Kind of how I organize. But this is on sale for the rest of the night at $5 because we're officially, when we sign off today, we're done with this project now. And I hope you have enjoyed it. I have some more My First Build a Quilt projects coming. They won't all be done on Wednesday night workshop. But when they go out onto the website and I tell you guys about them, if we don't do them in workshop, they will be $5 for a minimum of 1 month. That's the kind of time frame that we would work on them in live. So they'll be that $5 and then they'll go up to their regular prices. Okay. I think that's kind of a fair way to do it without us doing those projects every single time. So I have some fun projects for us to do coming up as well. Now, just let me remind you all that next Wednesday there is no live. okay? Because I am at the fair all day. I am what else? I'm judging quilts. So there won't be a live next Wednesday, but we will return the Wednesday after that with something all brand new, all cool. In fact, someone who is with us tonight, maybe a couple of someones, are going to get an email from me. Just be looking for it. That's all I'm going to say. Oh. So just keep your email. If you get it, you should get an email from me by tomorrow, a couple of you, because I've got something coming and I'm going to need a couple of you to help me out. Okay. Alrighty, everybody. So not next week, but back on the 24th. So have a great next week. Find something to do for an hour. Quilt, right? Do a build a quilt. Let me just remind you, Sunday, we introduced our new block Sunday. This is called Points Home. It's a star block made from flying geese units. And the points all point, that star is pointing you home. That was my thought. I was thinking of Peter Pan and Tinkerbell when I came up with that one. But this Wednesday, this month in Quilt Lab, we're talking about flying geese units. That's kind of our main theme. We kind of do a little bit of a theme each month. This month, we're talking about flying geese units. And Sunday, we have a whole new block for flying geese units that you can make with this block. So if you are part of Quilt Lab's subscription service, you will have already received your code to go in and grab your pattern, that pattern. Remember, it comes in 3 sizes. This month, again, it was 6x6, 8x8, and 10x10. So you should have that. If you don't have this pattern, but you want to join us, that pattern is available at the website as well. In that pattern set, those pattern sets are $7.95. They don't come with a finished quilting design because they're a block pattern, but they do come in 3 sizes. So you can make a small version, a medium version, and a large version, okay? And then we do different things with it throughout the month as well. All righty, are you guys ready for the question of the week? Oh, hang on, I've got stuff here I need to read. Listening, the pinwheels are kicking my butt. Oh, T, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry they're kicking your butt. That's so bad. I'm so sorry. You can do it, girl. You go for it. You can do it. Gail says, oh, this is at Ruth. Okay, that's a private question. I'm not going to read your information out loud. At Ruth, oh, okay. You guys are having a conversation. Yay, good. That's good. Ooh, thanks for okay, good. I'm so glad you guys are chatting. You just go right ahead. Yes, Dime makes great magnetic hoops. I really do like mine. I have had mine since before Brother and Baby Lock came out with their own versions of magnetic hoops. Otherwise, I probably would have bought the ones that go with my machines. But since I've had Dime for several years now, and I really like them. I like them for regular machine embroidery, all kinds of projects, but I love them. And the main reason I got them was for doing my finished quilting. Just makes everything so much simpler. So much simpler. All righty. You guys ready for the question of the week? Here we go. Question of the week. Who is your favorite fabric designer? Who's your favorite fabric designer? Let us know in the comments. I'm going to give you a couple minutes because we have 2 minutes until we're done. I think we can still be done by 7. I know I just kind of ran us through this tonight. So if you need to go back and rewatch, back up, go forward, feel free to do that. Who's your favorite fabric designer? Thanks. Oh, Sue, you're so welcome. I'm so glad you could join us. I love that. That's great. Lori Holt. You guys know I love Lori Holt. She's so nice and she's so talented. Tula Pink T. You and me, girl. Tula Pink. Tula is my favorite. And the fact that I've met her and know her, you know, I mean, we're not like besties, but she just, I love that girl. I'm sure you already knew that. I did, T. We had that little thing there. Yeah. Riley Blake. Anybody particular from Riley Blake, Ruth? They've got so many beautiful designers like Lori Holt. Riley Blake. They just have so many beautiful ones, don't they? Lori Holt. Good. Wow. Lori Holt's winning the race tonight. But yeah, I'm a total. So, Keith Fawcett. You guys know who Kaif is. I knew Kaif personally back before he started doing fabrics and was only doing yarns. I met him at a convention. I used to write knitting patterns ages ago. It was like a got me through graduate school kind of a job, right? And I met him. He was at a booth next to the booth I was at in Seattle, and met him and got to know him. We've written for a while and stuff. And when he came out with fabrics, I about lost my mind because they're so gorgeous. And that's why I love Tula. Their aesthetic is very similar in my mind, very rich colors, that kind of thing. That really is a hard answer. I have too many to pick from. I know, that really is unfair a little bit because like somebody says, Diana, what's your favorite song? I'm like, all of them. I love music so much. I love even if a genre isn't like my thing, there's a song in there somewhere in that genre that I do like. So, all of them. So I get that for sure. You knit as well, T. Oh, good. That's awesome. That's very cool. Yeah, I love knitting. Mostly these days I knit socks for myself. I love nice warm wool socks. Anybody else? Anybody? All right. Because now we're a minute over, so I'm gonna do the wheel. I'm gonna do the wheel. Spinning. Oh, I can't watch. It makes me dizzy. Here we go. Here. Gail Jean, Lori Holt. Gail, you're our winner tonight of our free pattern. So go ahead and send me your email in a note and I'll get you your pattern out tomorrow. Congratulations, Gail. Thank you all for playing. Remember, it's just, there's no right or wrong answers. I just, I want to give you guys some extra fun build a quilt things to do. So we do that every week. And some weeks, like, in the past few weeks, I've been doing it for everybody every week. But congratulations, Gail. I don't know what the pattern is yet, but by tomorrow morning, I will, and I will send it to you, but send me your email so I can send it back to you, okay? And we'll have another question next week, and we'll have at least one winner next week as well, okay? Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. You know how much I love getting together with you. You all are such a great group. We won't be here next week. But we will be here the Wednesday after the 24th. Sunday is Quilt Lab. So please check out our Quilt Lab video. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, and share. I appreciate that so very much. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go sew life beautiful. Bye for now, everybody.